Hi and welcome. So I'm going to show you one of my earliest watches. This is something that my mum bought me in 2007, and it has actually been featured on my channel before. When the channel started, it was actually one of the very first clips that I posted, in extremely poor quality, I might add. This is one of the more serious pieces in my collection. And right now here you'll be wondering, why am I holding on to this AP leather watch pouch? Well, you'll be in for a surprise, because what's inside is actually not it's not an AP watch. So here we go. This is a couple of pouches that I got from AP Singapore. And now you'll be wondering, oh wow, that looks very Panerai. Well, we'll come back to that actually, but it does look Panerai, doesn't it? It's not. It is my Omega Speedmaster 3573 Sapphire Sandwich. This model has the name, or the nickname, Sapphire Sandwich because the crystal on the front is in sapphire, and as the display back is also sapphire crystal. So a bit of a backstory. So before, well, actually this was the first Speedmaster that I got as a gift from my mom, and I was at university at the time. So this watch spawned a love for the Speedmaster itself and its movements. And while I was at university, I started to get more and more into the vintage pieces, or semi-vintage Speedmasters, and I ended up collecting about 5 of them with different varying ages. So one was like from 93, going all the way back to 1963, with a Cal 3-1 movement. And I had these for about 2 years, this whole collection of Speedmasters, at which point my tastes were changing and I wanted to try a few of the Rolex sports watches. And since I was based in London at the time, and I was going to return back home to Sri Lanka, I felt that it would be difficult to look after the collection well enough from here, because we don't have the same kind of watchmakers, and being able to send it off to BN for services to the Omega factory, the manufacturer from Sri Lanka, it's not easy. And also there's also the humidity factor. It's very humid back home here in Colombo right now. And the vintage pieces, the cases are not, they don't hold the water resistance well enough. And if you're serious about vintage watches, you would either need to have like a humidifier of sorts to keep them at keep them protected. And that's not something I want to get into at that point. So I felt it was a good time to part off with the older pieces, because at the time I had a network of collectors from time zone, and so I reached out to the various collectors that I knew, a couple of friends, and I sold them. And actually I even sold this to a friend called Jim, and he bought it at a pretty good price off me. And several years later I said, hey, do you still have the watch I sold you? And because he's very seriously into his Speedmasters, and he had got a few Grail pieces in his collection, and I asked him if he would be interested in selling my piece back to me, and he was like, sure. So a couple of years later on, I bought it back from him. So I found another great guy, Micah, on Facebook. He's also very much into the Panerai community, and he makes these wonderful leather straps out of military surplus, Mauser pouches. And so this is a Mauser pouch where he's taken the strap that closes the flap and other parts from the pouch, and he makes these custom bespoke straps. He does a whole lot more, but this in particular is the vintage looking Mauser straps, and it has a certain patina from its use during that time, and since he's part of the Panerai community, he offers it on this Privy type Panerai style buckle in brushed steel. So anyways, going back to the watch itself. So this is an iconic Moonwatch. Let me just get the strap opened out so we can take a closer look at the movement. And let me actually hold this like that and get a better focus on the movement, so we can and that gives a very clear indication of what the movement itself looks like. And as you can see right now, the balance is stopped because this is a manual wind watch. Even though it's it's not the most expensive Omega out there, there's a bridge that holds the 2 gears for the chronograph function. And let me get something off my desk. So let me try and point to it. So this part here, which forms this bridge, is the one that holds one wheel and a ruby over there, and another cog with another ruby over there. So when the chronograph function is activated, this tiny wheel here essentially gets pushed down onto that wheel, and that engages the chronograph itself. But let me put this back and let's actually set the watch going. So because it's manual wind right now, it's completely dead. It's a good idea to give this about 40 turns, but you can actually just wind it till the mainspring is fully wound, at which point you will feel tension on the crown, and you wouldn't be able to wind it anymore. So yeah, it can be wound quite a bit. I can still hear the clicking. And let's see, are we there yet? Nope. Okay, there we go. Now I can't, I'm getting nothing off the crown, and now I'm just winding the other way. And now you can see the sub-register at 9 p.m. That's the running seconds, and it's moving. And let me turn the watch around again, and now you'll be able to see the balance is oscillating. So with the balance oscillating, you can see the watch is now running, and actually the wheel on the right hand side, the rightmost wheel, that is in fact turning. So it's slowly turning, But if you keep your eye on the wheel at the farthest right, that's in motion. So when the chronograph action, when the pusher at 2 p.m. is activated to start the chronograph, that small wheel that I showed earlier up here, it falls down and connects the one on the right with the one on that bridge that I mentioned. And so let's flip it over and let's see the chronograph in action. There we go. So the register on the furthest right is a 30-minute register, and the register at 6 o'clock is a 12-hour register. And also another interesting thing is, because this has the sapphire crystal itself, the profile is very flat in comparison to one of the vintage Speedmasters with the Hesselite, or commonly known the acrylic crystal. So again, now we just passed the 1 minute timing, and the sub-register at 3 o'clock has recorded that. So I will now stop this chronograph, and then the pusher at 4 o'clock can be used to reset the chronograph function itself. And setting the watch is simply a case of popping the crown out. You don't have to worry about what time it is or anything of the sort. There is nothing to worry about in terms of that, like to damage the movement. It doesn't have a date, so we have no problem there. And you can just set the watch as you like. So let me zoom out a bit so I can check the time. So now it is a little past 2:05. Yeah, so we're around that mark. So let's get this going. So and let's see, to select. So what I don't, since it's a manual wind, I just set it that way, and so it's roughly there. And if I want to synchronize the seconds, because it doesn't hack, what I would do is I would just synchronize the chronograph seconds hand and just start the chronograph and leave it running. I know this is not like the Patek 5980 or 5960p caliber, where one can simply leave the chronograph running as a way of indicating a sweeping seconds hand. But since this is a watch that I don't wear regularly, and it's relatively cheap to repair or service, I just use the chronograph seconds hand to track the real seconds if I feel like it. But really, this watch, I don't wear it as much as I should really. but I do enjoy having it in my collection. See the finishing, and it's not. I mean, a lot of the components in the chronograph, they aren't finished as incredibly as Patek or Erlangen stone, but the bridge that connects these two cogs here, it's got Geneva striping, or what's normally called Course de Genève, and that's been done quite well. It's actually a wonderful Omega, so it's one of my favorite pieces. So that's why it's been in the collection for such a long time. And I'm actually hunting for a vintage mesh style bracelet. There are a few on eBay. I think there's a recent Hodinkee article mentioning a bracelet that, from what I saw, might be what I'm looking for. So once I get that, and it's on a metal bracelet, I think I'll probably wear it a bit more frequently. But as far as Moonwatches go, I'm a big fan of the Sapphire sandwich, and profile wise it's very comfortable. It's a watch that you can wear and try to forget that you've got a nice Speedmaster on your wrist at least. And even if it takes any dings and dents, they can be buffed out relatively easily. A lot of the parts for these are available at a lot of watchmakers. So you can, I would recommend getting these serviced and repaired by Omega itself. Omega BN in Switzerland do the best job. But if you're in UK, you can of course send it to Omega UK. But some people like to find maybe an Omega trained watchmaker who's gone, as an independent, and they also do fantastic work. That way these are pretty easy to maintain. It won't cost as much as say an AP or Patek in terms of servicing, and also it doesn't take a long time because these components are easily found in the market. And this has actually never been serviced. It's from 2007. I had a watchmaker at the Omega boutique in Geneva take a look at this, and that was when I bought the 5127, so that was May last year, and he said it's fine, it doesn't need to be serviced, and he even did the water resistance check, and so that was interesting. So now in comparison, my AP Royal Oak has actually gone for its second service, because on the AP's 3120 caliber, even though it's a beautifully finished movement, I find that it has the tendency of oils drying up quite frequently, and so it's had the most number of services, thankfully all within its 3-year warranty period. Otherwise a service for an AP can cost around 1,500 Singapore dollars and upwards, because it depends on how many parts have worn out and how many parts need to be replaced. And so coming back to the Omega, yeah, it's just a fantastic watch, and I hope you liked this short clip, well, yeah, on this piece. Well, thanks for watching. Do hit like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts by commenting below. I'm making a few more clips soon, so until then, cheers.